We are down here at Reefapalooza in New Jersey, and it is on setup day. So everybody here is setting up. Let's walk around, see if anybody will talk to us. So who are you? What's your name? And you're the guy in charge?
Yes, I'm one of the show managers. My name is Lou Shivo with Reefapalooza.
Okay, great. And so can you tell the audience, because most of the people here are not necessarily into reefs, they're just kind of getting into it, like what this show is, where they can go and see one, and what gave you the idea to start this up?
Okay. Well, Reefapalooza was started back in Southern California about 14 years ago, which is at the time was the strongest market for the saltwater trade.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of corals are imported and fished through California from Asia and stuff like that, and Indonesia and Australia. So basically, we were out there attending as a vendor, and we thought it'd be a great idea to have that kind of show on our East Coast. So we worked with the managers of that show to franchise it out to Orlando, Florida. And then that show did really well, so we took the same idea and we thought maybe bringing it to the New York area would be a great idea because there's a huge market for aquariums, saltwater fish, corals, and stuff like that. So here we are in year number 3 here, and it's been growing every year so far, ever since.
Well, it looks like you have some really high quality, brands in here.
Yes.
It's real high end stuff. Is that intentional, or is that just the way it ended up?
It seems like the way it's ending up. This is a hobby, saltwater hobbies, where you have to have some good amount of disposable income. So a lot of the vendors that invest in these types of shows are people that have a really nice product, cutting edge products, and people that really care to see our hobby succeed. So they're here to talk about it, give information about the products, and show you new and upcoming things they have in a pipeline.
So is it growing? I mean, you said you started it 14 years ago, and is it getting more popular? Are you having good turnouts?
We're having good turnouts, yes. Right now, we've noticed about a 25 to 30% increase year over year,
good, yeah.
and we expect that this year as well, based off the pre-ticket sales for this weekend.
Right. And you're having one in, you have this one in New York, and you're going to have one in California too. When's
Yes.
that?
California's going to be this October 7th and 8th, 2017. It's at the Anaheim, the Marriott, the Anaheim, and it's going to be right next to Disneyland. It'll be the first year they're moving it over to that venue. It used to be at the fairgrounds in Orange County, so it's going to be a step up this year. Going to the hotel and having the show held in a nicer venue.
And you have a couple of speakers who are appearing this here and in California. Is it the same people? Or?
California, I don't know the lineup off the top of my head, but here we have Julian Sprung talking from Two Little Fishies, and he's also a really great known author here in our industry.
Yeah, I just talked to him.
You talked to Julian? Yeah, he's really good. We have John Capolino, which is he's like a professional hobbyist. He's been around in the hobby for maybe most of his life, and essentially he's got Tank of the Month at Reef Central, which is a major reef forum, which is a high recognition, and I think he achieved that twice. So he does numerous talks and shares his knowledge throughout the industry, different cities. Then we also have Colin from Coral Morphologic that is going to be talking on Sunday. He's really good. He has a different perspective on things. He has his photography and videography is phenomenal. He really gets deep and intense with the coral and gets really some great macro shots and gets to do some great videos that he shares on his page as well. Yep.
And are there links and everything on the Reefapalooza website to some of the speeches or talks or anything like that?
Yes, we have all the folks that are giving talks this weekend will be on our website as reefapaloozashow.net/New York. You'll have a bio on there, and I'll give you the times and the whole speaker lineup.
Right. Now, you might have an overview of how the reef hobby is doing. I mean, from my experience back a long time ago, when I was living in more suburban areas, it seemed to be more popular. When I moved into like San Francisco and now in New York, it doesn't seem like there's that many people into it. They seem to be kind of like in the urban or suburban, I guess, areas. I don't know if that's...
We noticed that too, and we noticed that, New York, New York area, New York City area, it has really been strong in the freshwater industry for many years.
Yeah.
And we noticed that, there was a huge interest up here, but they didn't have a show like Reefapalooza. Reefapalooza has different elements to where it's actually an educational event where people can come, listen to people even talk to the manufacturers and stuff like that. So we've noticed a increase of quality of vendors, the actual corals that they're growing and producing here in this area, as well as overall enthusiasm for the hobby. And a lot of people gain a lot more knowledge being part of what we have going on here at Reefapalooza. And this area, we've noticed it year over year already.
And one more quick thing.
Sure.
You have some organizations also, not just vendors, but some organizations that are here at the show.
We do.
Can you tell a little bit about those?
Yeah, we have MACNA and MASNA, which is the Marine Aquarium Society of North America.
Okay.
They're like our governing body for our hobby and our industry. they are here. They're promoting their show, which is in late August this year. It's called MACNA, and it's over in New Orleans.
What's that stand for?
MACNA is Marine Aquarium Conference of America.
Okay.
MACNA, yeah.
Okay.
And they're the oldest trade show in the industry. They've been around. I think they're already up to number 25 or 26. So they've been doing it.
That's just aquariums in general, not reef specific.
Yeah. It's mainly marine reefs. Yeah, reefs and saltwater fish.
Okay.
So they don't do any really freshwater. But we did put a twist on thing here. We have a freshwater area here at Reefapalooza in New York, which we don't have in Orlando. It's called Fresh Fest. It's run by Dustin from Dustin's Fish Tanks, which is a big YouTuber. He puts out a lot of videos on the hobby, in his hobby, the freshwater aquarium hobby. And he's actually here, and they have a quad booth, and they're doing an aquascaping contest this weekend.
Oh,
they
okay.
do, yeah. So you have people coming in this weekend. I think it's 10 contestants, and they're going to be coming here and doing aquascapes and the freshwater tanks. And they're going to have a contest and actually have prizes and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
Is
really
that
neat.
in the back? Or?
It's in the back to the left. If you look on it, when you look on our map, we have it marked with the Fresh Fest. When you guys come in, you can see it on our big directory when you come in. So, and we like to grow that. Even though it is a reef show, we are, we're all in the aquarium hobby, and we'd love to embrace that part of our hobby. For sure.
Yeah, a lot of people start off in freshwater and they kind of move up, and they end up in the reefs. Well, this looks like a nice show, and it's a nice venue, and well, you're going to be here next year as well?
Yes, we're signed on for next year, the same weekend. I think it's a day earlier. I think it's the 23rd and 24th.
Okay.
And this would be, we try to stay with the same weekend because, with the industry, the way the calendar turns, you want to kind of space out your shows a little bit.
Right.
And so you're not kind of overlapping, because a lot of manufacturers like to do all these major shows, and if you stagger them too close to each other, it kind of makes it logistically tough for them,
Right. Yeah, and I think the reef hobby is important now. Everybody's concerned about the coral reefs, and they're a little bit maybe worried about starting, hobby in the reefs and the saltwater fish, but actually helps to propagate the corals and so it's to support the hobby, and you're doing it in a conscious way, right?
So that's major part of Reefapalooza. Yeah, major part of Reefapalooza is sustainability, aquaculturing, which is actually growing the corals inside of your aquariums or your home aquariums or your aquariums at your facility. So we're really big into that. I would say probably about 80% of the corals are aquacultured, which is grown from a wild colony. So it's actually we're trying to propagate inside of tanks versus taking from the reef.
Right. And it's the scientists are now working in all kinds of fields with the high-end hobbyists to get more information, and it's helping out.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it's actually benefiting the reefs.
Yes, it is. It's benefiting the reefs. I think that, because we have such a collective brain power here, that the hobbyists, people, if the government and the scientists that really understood that, embraced the hobby level, they would be surprised about how rapidly we can grow the corals and how the results we get now.
Yeah, they're learning from each other in all fields, including reefs.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one thing I love about our industry, the aquarium industry in general, is that people are open to share knowledge, and and that's how you grow it. You grow it by sharing.
Yeah, and I notice it's one of those things that I see people on Facebook and they get one aquarium and they're it just becomes addictive.
Yeah, it is very addictive.
They just really love to build it up and show people what they can do with it, and they create these beautiful things all by themselves. So there's creativity. There's this mechanics and engineering involved. So
it's
and
an
it's
art
also
and a
helping.
science.
It's an art and a science. It's helping the environment.
Absolutely.
So it's really great to that you're doing this. I appreciate your time and
absolutely.
appreciate you talking to me.
Yeah, it was
and
fun.
Good luck. And I'll come back in the next couple of days, and it's going to be talk to some people. And
that's awesome,
again.
man. Yeah, is that a podcast you're doing?
Yeah, it's a podcast.
You're listening to the UnCommonCore podcast with your host Thomas Howell.
So tell me who you are and what you got.
Yeah. So my name is George, and I'm from the company Easy Reefs, which is a manufacturer who's producing certain diets for fishes, and we are from Spain.
Okay, so it's fish food.
Yeah, we have fish food, and we also have phytoplankton blends. So we have different phytoplankton brands according to the purpose that you want to do with that. So we have one blend that is called Easy Booster. It's the most popular one, which is something you are adding to the reef aquarium. So it's basically to feed a big variety of zooplankton, which is in the aquarium. And therefore we have a mix of 4 different phytoplankton species. So we have different sizes just to cover all the needs that the zooplankton has.
The food for the rotifers, and then the rotifers are for certain fish and certain like seahorses and things like that.
Absolutely, because it's very important that when you are breeding these things like rotifers or also Artemia, that you have the right diet for them so that they have really a good amount of nutrition for the fishes that you want to feed, especially with Artemia, because Artemia is not a marine zooplankton,
Right.
so it does not really...
It's just a brackish water shrimpy thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's missing a lot of things which are essential for marine fishes.
Right.
So what we have developed, for example, for the Artemia, is we have something which is called Easy Rich. So you are using this as a final enrichment just 2 hours before you feed the Artemia to the fishes. You are then using the Artemia as a transport vessel. Yeah, so because the Artemia is not able to digest the phytoplankton within
Right.
2 hours, so you put the phytoplankton inside the Artemia, and by doing that, you are then making sure that the Artemia, or let's say the phytoplankton, is really reaching the fishes. And that
So
is
you,
really
you give it
making
to
a difference.
okay, so that's baby brine shrimp or brine shrimp.
Yeah.
And then you give it to them, you said an hour or 2 hours before you feed the fish.
Yes. Artemia needs about 2 hours to break down all the essential elements that we need for the marine fishes, like the omega-3 and omega-6 fatty
Right.
acids. So after 2 hours, they are breaking down. Yeah, so they are not available anymore. So we need to make sure, and this is why we use Nanochloropsis. Nanochloropsis has a very hard shell, and it's not possible for the Artemia to digest Nanochloropsis.
Okay.
So this is why we are using it. So we are just loading the Artemia with the Nanochloropsis, and by doing that, we are making sure that the Nanochloropsis then reaches the fishes, because the fish knows what to do with that.
Right. Now, yeah, because I remember I used to have some seahorses, like some dwarf seahorses especially,
Very
and I had the brine shrimp, the Artemia and the brine shrimp, and I would feed them just the algae, the different kinds of green algae, which I don't
Yeah.
think that worked all that well. But I had to grow the algae.
Yeah.
it was a
Basically,
whole other system.
Phytoplankton is an algae, yeah?
Yeah.
So you were on the right track.
Yeah.
But the thing is that phytoplankton, there are so many different species, and every species really has its own nutrition profile.
Yeah.
So it's very important to make sure you're using the right land. So it's not enough just to breed. Most people are breeding, when they breed phytoplankton just to feed their animals, is Nanochloropsis, because this is the most easiest one.
Right.
But it's also for digest purposes, and also from the nutrition profile point of view, they are not the best ones.
Yeah.
So there are other species like Phaeodactylum, for example, Isochrysys, and all these kind of, they are a lot more
Yeah, and it would crash
valuable.
every now and then too. The system, the phytoplankton system would crash every now and then. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
it was hard to keep it
because
going.
it's very sensible to
Yeah.
any sort of contamination and whatever.
Right.
So what we are offering with our blends, we have the Easy Roti, we have the Easy Art, and we have the Easy Rich. So with these three products, the people can totally forget about the phytoplankton breeding. They can completely focus on the Artemia or on the rotifer breeding, which
Right.
makes life a lot easier, because
Right.
the phytoplankton thing is really what's so time consuming and
Yeah.
space consuming and so on. And this is what many people, when they decide not to breed, is because of the phytoplankton thing.
Yeah.
Because the phytoplankton stage is really the worst thing.
Yeah,
So
it was hard to keep.
with our blends, the people are totally free of that,
Right.
and can completely focus on the Artemia. Most people start with the Artemia. Artemia is quite easy. Once
Yeah.
you are getting used to it, the step also to do rotifers is not very difficult.
Yeah, and they breed
because-
themselves, and they can. The rotifers are especially
Absolutely.
self-perpetuate. Yeah.
You don't have to be so careful about contamination issues and stuff
And
like that.
their little aquarium or wherever you keep them is kind of interesting to watch them as well.
Absolutely.
And what about what you feed the coral? You have special things for coral directly?
It's not really that we are, because the thing is, the digest system of the corals is not yet totally investigated. So we
Okay.
don't really understand how corals feed until, let's say, the very end. There's still
Yeah.
some things that we
Right.
don't understand, and this is why we don't say you are feeding corals with phytoplanktons. There are so many species of corals.
Yeah.
Of course, there are certain species who are able to digest phytoplankton right away. But our main target with the Easy Booster is introducing the first step of the natural feeding chain in the reef aquarium. So by doing that, we are making sure that the reef aquarium is establishing a zooplankton population.
Yeah.
And this zooplankton population has a big benefit for the reef aquarium. Yeah, the zooplankton has a big benefit for the corals. This is what we know. Yeah, and this is what we do with the Easy Boost. Say one of the main products for fish feeds, for example, is the mastic. This is what most people know us for, because this is a paste, and this paste can be mixed also in a very wet way, so it's almost like a liquid. Yeah? So you can then use it as a spray. Yeah, for your reef, for your corals and things like that.
Do you have to feed any of these things with a little pipette or anything like that? I remember in the old days when I did a long time ago, we had the little long.
You mean like target feeding?
Yeah, for targeting certain corals and things like that, or not? No, don't really do that.
Again, the thing is, we don't understand really how corals are feeding. There are definitely Tubastrea species, for example.
Right.
They require a target feeding. If you have them in a tank, let's say in a very remote area or something, you know, and if you would just put the food inside the aquarium, the Tubastrea, that's not enough, because they need a lot of things. Yeah. So for these type of species, target feeding makes totally sense. Concerning Acropora, I'm not sure. You know, SPS corals. I think most of them,
which is what most people have these days.
They are fine when you just add the phytoplankton to the aquarium, because the zooplankton is doing the rest. Yeah. So by increasing the phytoplankton, you are also increasing the zooplankton population. So it's all about finding the right balance in the aquarium.
Right.
Yeah?
And now, some people will have a separate aquarium for the rotifers and stuff like that. Some people will try to breed them also in the tank or do both. What about the filtration system? I mean, is there some filtration systems that are like you shouldn't use with this food because it's going to take the food out too quickly over others, like some to be aware of?
Yeah. The thing is, some people, for example, are concerned about skimmers, using skimmers.
Right.
Yeah. Personally, I don't really think it makes a big difference. Yeah. There is always maybe a small portion taken out by the skimmer.
It's good to turn the skimmer off, though, when you feed, isn't it?
Yeah, you can do that, but I think the amount that the skimmer is taking off of the phytoplankton is really too small.
Okay.
Yeah?
So you don't have to worry about it. So
no, I would not worry about that. Yeah.
Okay. What about chemical absorption in the filters? Anything that's going to screw it up as far as that goes?
No, I'm not aware of anything that is really then damaging or let's say decreasing the population of the zooplankton or something like that. Of course, another thing is, let's say, liquid absorbers, or all sort of chemical liquids which are doing certain things in the aquarium. This is where I would be a little bit, let's say, sensible. Yeah,
like
but on mechanical
like
things, no, canister filters. The let's say the mesh in the canister filter is too wide. You know, every phytoplankton will go right through it. Yeah? So because that's so small.
Yeah, because one of the tricks is trying to build up a system and knowing everything from the beginning, so that you're not kind of like defeating your purpose somewhere along the line. You have do you have a website for this stuff, or where do people usually find this? Is it in most reef stores, or?
Oh yeah, so we have a website which is called Easy Reefs.
Okay.
We have a quite popular Facebook page, and this is what I recommend to most people, because many users like to share their experience they are having with our unique products.
Right.
Especially with the mastic, for example, which is a food paste. And it's made for very finicky feeders like copper bands and things like that, Moorish idol, and we became very popular for that. So for solving the problems.
So those are
of
good
many
for the copper band butterflies and the Moorish idols and things like that.
Absolutely. This is why we are using it as a symbol for our company. Yeah?
And that's this one right here, Ziki, the pellet.
The Decay is a pellet which is made on the recipe of the mastic. The mastic is really this one what we have here, and this is available. It's a fine powder, so it comes in a fine powder. You are adding water to it, and what you are getting is like an instant meal. You can compare it a little bit.
Once you put it in the tank, it doesn't dissolve right away.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't dissolve. You can. Sorry. You can stick it on a glass, or you can stick it on the live rock. So, and what you are there are two things. What you are doing, you are offering a very high nutrition food, a very fresh food, and a raw food.
Right.
And the other thing you are doing is you are introducing let's say, a natural way of how most of the fishes that we have in our aquarium are feeding, because most fishes are grazers.
Well, you're
So-
giving them the right nutrition.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's not only about the nutrition, it's also about the way they feed. Because the fishes are used to feed small amounts over a longer period.
Right.
And not like what we are used to do with the pellets. We throw food inside the aquarium and it takes like 1 or 2 minutes and it's all gone. So, and this is against the digest system of the fishes. Fishes are made, I call them long distance digesters.
Right,
Yeah?
right.
Because compared to, let's say, many people know dogs, for example.
Yeah.
Dogs are made to eat huge amounts of food in a very short time because they must do that. When they find something in the wild, they have to take care that they eat as much as possible because other dogs might come around. So, but what is the dog doing after he had his dinner? He's laying down.
Yeah.
I've never seen a yellow tank laying down in the shadow after he's eating his
So
pellets.
they're constantly generating. food.
Exactly, they need constantly food, but smaller amounts. And this is what we realized with the mastic by giving it to the aquarium, let's say putting it in a certain spot on the live rock or something, or on the glass. Most people put it on the glass because it's, from the visual point of view,
Right.
it's the nicest thing because you can observe your fishes. And this then takes about half an hour for them, depending on the amount, for the fishes to eat this. And this is a lot better for the whole, let's say, digest system that the, most fishes are used to.
And where do they? One last question. Where do they keep? Like, do you keep it in the refrigerator? Is it room temperature, or and do you buy bulk, or how would someone go about when they buy it? Do they just
I think most people first start with a small amount just to see how it works.
Right.
And then what you can do, there are various options. We have them in bags of 14 grams. 14 grams, if you mix it, you have around 20 grams of food. This is, I would say, for an average tank, let's say a 50-gallon tank would need about this is an amount you would take within a week, I would say.
Okay.
And you can keep this for a week in a refrigerator without any problem.
keep that in the refrigerator?
If you
the
wanna-
product in room temperature.
If you want to make larger amounts, you can put it in a freezer and keep it there for 5 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we have people who are preparing larger amounts, and then they use, for example, these egg crates and make cubes. You know, they
Oh,
make
okay.
they form a plate.
And you could put them frozen in the tank, I guess.
You can make it. You can
Like
put
ice
it frozen.
cubes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, but they stick a little bit better if you thaw them a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because you want to stick it somewhere.
You want it to not
Yeah.
float.
Because otherwise it just drops down, and this
Yeah.
is not really a game because then you have the fish hunting for it.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Great. And your website? You say you use a Facebook page.
yeah.
What's the
just
name of it again?
Easy Reefs.
Easy Reefs. Okay. And you also have a pound sign here. Feed the Impossible. So they could find some pictures by looking on that.
Absolutely. Feed the
Right.
Impossible this is what we are most popular for because we saw so many fishes who, for example, butterfly fishes, dedicated polyp
Right. Well, you have
feeding
pictures
species.
there of them right there. I can
Yeah.
see that. You've got the Moorish idol, and
Absolutely.
you've got my first fish I ever had, which was a copper-batted butterfly when I was like 14 or 12
Okay.
or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, and they're beautiful fish, and they're a little picky about the food. Yeah.
Absolutely.
They do eat, though. I think the copper-banded butterflies and the do eat the little troublesome sea anemones, though. I figured that out later.
Yeah, sometimes
Something,
they're
yeah.
starting picking on it, but I
Yeah.
don't know if they're doing it because they're desperate for finding
Yeah,
food.
yeah.
Yeah, so something which we also saw, because many people say, yeah, but ours is eating mysis. The thing about mysis is 80% is water. So the copper band, he has to eat a lot of mysis.
Right.
Yeah, and in most aquariums, he is not able to get this amount because he is too slow.
Right.
Yeah, when the people are feeding frozen mysis to the aquarium, it takes a minute and,
And they
it's
could
gone.
They could waste away. They could waste away pretty quickly, actually. The
Yeah.
copper-banded butterflies,
Yeah.
and the Moorish
Yeah,
idols too.
it's- yeah,
so-
but this is mainly because of feeding, because it's
Yeah.
just not enough food for them.
Right.
And with the mastic, they really, because the other fishes, they after a certain time when they had enough, they stop picking on the mastic, and the copper band is free to do whatever he wants with it. Yeah, because he can go there and pick on it as long as he wants.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. Thanks for talking to me, and it's very
Thank you.
interesting. Good luck with your product. It's setup day, so you have the easy. You just have like a couple of little packages to set on the
easy,
table.
yeah.
Everybody else is screwing things and plugging things and moving water in. So enjoy. Have a good show. Bye bye. Hello, this is Tom Howell. If you're concerned about how Hurricane Irma affected the coral reefs, you can donate to the Coral Restoration Foundation. Their website is coralrestoration.org. CORALRESTORATION.org. You can also find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You're listening to the Uncommon Core Podcast, Episode 17, Reefapalooza, Part 1, Setup Day. If you'd like to go to a Reefapalooza and learn more about tropical fish in the aquarium industry, the next one will be held in just a few days on October 7th through 8th in Anaheim, California, at the Anaheim Hilton. After that, they go back to the East Coast in April on the 7th and 8th to Orlando, Florida, before returning to the Meadowlands Exposition Center in New Jersey on June 23rd and 24th. If you didn't catch that, you can go to their website at reefapaloozashow.net. And as usual, I'll have links to them and everyone from the episode on our blog at uncommoncorepodcast.com or uccpodcast.com. Look under episode 17 on the menu. You can also contact me at uncommoncorepodcast@yahoo.com. And now, without further ado, here's more from Reefapalooza Part 1, Setup Day. So we're here, it says joeknowsreefs.com, and you have, I guess you have SPF corals? You have corals in your little beautiful display of little coral fragments, right? This is what you sell online?
Yeah, we sell online. We also have a brick and mortar retail store in Charleston, South Carolina. We have a mixture of all sorts of corals, from soft corals to stony LPS corals, SPS corals, and a little bit of everything in between.
Now, is it just since we're in the setting up day, is it difficult? Do you have to get all this stuff set up, and is it a little dangerous to the corals, or?
It can be. We've done this for a good little while now. We have a pretty good system down. We drove up through the night, Wednesday night, and got here yesterday morning. So the corals had been in coolers for about 48 hours by the time we got them out into the tanks, and we lost less than 1% of the corals. Everything seems to be doing pretty well, so we're pretty happy.
Yeah, you have quite an impressive display here. And what do you have where did you say your main store was?
It's in Charleston, South Carolina. It's a brick and mortar store. We do a good bit of walk-in business. Our business started online, so we still do probably 60 to 70% of our business online.
And you grow all the corals yourself?
Not all of the corals. We do have a farm system set up where we like to aquaculture corals. Some corals we bring in, especially colonies, branching euphyllia, that type of stuff, we bring in and sell as a whole colony, or sometimes we have to frag those up as well.
Now, for those people who don't know, a fragment is it's one of the important things in the reef industry. It's perpetuating the coral species. In case there's anything happens in the oceans, we have these people, hobbyists around the world, with the fragments and with the corals that they can keep alive and keep going. And the little teeny fragments, what do? You place them in your aquarium and hopefully they grow, right?
Yeah, exactly. So corals are a lot like plants, where you can take a cutting off of it, essentially let it heal, and then it will grow into a colony of its own. And with coral fragments, you can put them in your aquarium, fix them with glue, epoxy, something like that, allow them to grow into a colony. Corals will grow into an infinite size until something gets in the way of that, and, especially in the wild. But it's easier for a lot of people to afford a frag rather than a whole colony. They can spread their money out a little bit that way. And then aquaculturing corals via fragments is a lot more sustainable as well.
Now, how long does it take them, though, to grow?
Depending on the type of coral, if you start with a 1-inch fragment, some can take multiple years to grow into a 3, 4, 5-inch colony. Some can grow from a 1-inch frag into a 3, 4, 5-inch colony in a year or less.
Right. You never see people with the corals going out of control though in the aquariums. I mean, this must be something about the aquarium. They must know how big to get or something.
Yeah,
No.
they're limited as far as how they can grow, and then when they do get big, they'll encroach on each other. A lot of people that have established long-term tanks, they have to trim their corals to keep them from touching each other.
Right, right. And do you sell products and everything else on your website?
On our website, we only sell livestock. Occasionally, we'll offer some dry goods. In our store, we offer some dry goods as well. But our primary business is livestock.
Do you have any recommendations for keeping the corals healthy as far as products out here that you think are your favorite, some of your favorites?
I have some of my own favorite products that I like to use. I like Me Coral. The Two Little Fishies is a good brand as well. Everybody has their own decision, I guess, their own favorite products.
That's kind of what makes it fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and the biggest thing really is keeping everything constant and keeping everything stable.
Right. And is there anything, any specials that you tend to offer occasionally with the show, or?
At the shows, the prices are a little discounted as they would be from the store, and we usually offer buy three, get one free on some of the lower end items, and then on the second day of the show, the prices usually go down a little bit as well.
Okay, real quick, because a lot of the audience that I have would probably be curious about starting out. What would be the better corals to start out with? Some of the hard corals, or would you start out with some of these other ones over here, the soft corals?
Generally soft corals. Soft corals don't have a calcium-based skeleton like you and I. So soft corals are a lot more tolerant to swings and differences in water quality. They also grow a bit quicker as well. So a lot of people start with soft corals and use that as kind of a judge as to how well they're doing, and then kind of move up from there to other hard corals.
Right. And do you sell mushrooms or anything like that?
Yeah, we sell mushrooms, zoanthids, clavularia. We have other various forms of soft coral, and then as far as hard corals go, various encrusting chalices, favias, gonioporas, all sorts of other items.
Oh, you have gonioporas too, huh? Is there anything like trends right now in purchasing, or do you get all kinds of things at all times?
Yeah, over the years it's changed. Several years back it was Australian acanthastrias, which are now called micromusa. A couple of years after that were the chalices. Right now it seems that acropora, which is in the SPS family, it's stony coral, a little bit more difficult to keep, but that seems to be the trend right now. Mm-hmm. Colorful, unique SPS corals.
Just real quick, what's your opinion on setting up the reef? Because there was some kind of a show, where they set up these weird aquariums. They set an aquarium in a Coke dispenser, like a Coke machine or something. But I think most of the people at the reef show here more want a natural reef with natural corals. Do you have any thoughts about that kind of a thing?
Yeah, a lot of people on the shows you're talking about, those generally are tanks that are what we call fish-only tanks, and they may have decorations or coral decorations in there. And you're allowed to keep fish in those types of tanks that won't necessarily eat coral. Some fish eat corals. So in a traditional reef tank, you're somewhat limited on the type of fish that you can keep, and you also have to pay a lot closer attention to water quality, your different parameters, and everything like that as far as a reef aquarium goes.
Yeah, the reef is the real challenge. I mean, you want to replicate a natural setting and a natural environment and get the kind of corals that would be naturally together, and then just the minimum number of fish in there. And they're really beautiful and interesting to keep on there. Do you have any favorites of corals that you keep in your own tank? You have a tank, right?
Yeah, I do have my own tank. It's in my store. At home, I have a little 16-gallon nano for my daughter, but my own personal favorite are acropora. They're kind of the more challenging, more difficult corals, and it seems that the longer that people are in the hobby, they kind of move towards that because it's a little bit more of a challenge as far as keeping those corals healthy and colorful.
And the nano reefs nowadays, it used to be back in the day that the big tanks were a little bit easier to keep because any variation. But nowadays, I think the reef tanks, with all the equipment we have now, it's a lot easier to keep a little nano reef tank, I think, isn't it?
It is. Just in general, reef keeping has come a long way as far as equipment and technology. It's a lot easier now than it used to be. And with the nano aquariums, they've become real popular, the all-in-one units. The filtration, especially chemical filtration for those aquariums, has really come a long way. So they are a lot easier to maintain now. It's very easy to set up a little 10 or 20-gallon nano and maintain it properly and not have any real problems.
Right, yeah, and they're quite beautiful. And how's the business? Are you doing pretty good?
Business is good. Summertime is generally kind of the slump, so to speak, for the aquatics industry because people are on vacation,
Right.
they're out on the boat, they're spending time outdoors. Generally, when it begins to cool off and people spend more time indoors looking at their aquarium is when sales really begin to jump, and that's usually around Labor Day, probably through the Memorial Day. So summertime is kind of the downside.
Right. And even though you have to know a lot in order to have a reef tank, actually setting up a reef tank and having it stable is not a whole lot maintenance as you would in like maybe a normal fish tank. As long as you know the parameters and you monitor those, then the tank is pretty solid once it's fixed.
Yeah, once it's established, it's fairly
Once it's
easy to
established,
maintain.
yeah.
The biggest thing is purchasing good equipment, good quality equipment. With equipment you can buy cheap knockoffs, or you can buy good quality, brand name stuff that's known very well. So good quality equipment really is the key.
Right. And so you recommend good lighting, that's the main thing, and good water quality.
Yeah, with the reef aquarium, trying to save a buck, so to speak, is what gets a lot of people in trouble.
Right.
There are a lot of cheap Chinese knockoffs, so do yourself a favor. In the long run, you'll save money by buying good equipment in the beginning.
Right. Well, that sounds good. You got a beautiful display here and a good company here. So it's Joe Knows Reefs, JoeKnowsReefs.com, and that's where they go, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, joeknowsreefs.com. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, social media. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Right. Okay. Well, hey, thanks a lot for your time and
Thank
telling
you.
us about it. You got a great product, beautiful display as well.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so here we are with the famous Julian Sprung, setting up and hammering things together all by yourself.
Well, I'm not all by myself. I have a little bit of
You
help
have a
here.
little
We got-
crew, but you're out screwing and hammering.
Yes. Yeah, I screw around all the time.
Right.
No.
So tell people about your famous brand and what makes you so famous. I mean, you've got the best books on reef keeping and on fishes. I think I have a lot of your books, if not all of them. So, and you've been doing it a long time. So tell us a little bit about who you
Yeah.
are. And
Hi. So Two Little Fishies started in 1991, and the first product we had was a video, an educational video. And at that time, I was writing a monthly column in a magazine called Reef Notes, and that was Freshwater and Marine Aquarium magazine that no longer exists.
was that the one that had the little clippings that you used to put together in a binder?
They did, yeah, they did do that.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
right. But
Yeah.
it's been many years since they published, and at the time, in '91, when I was writing that column, I was famous just from that. I would do lectures in different places. People would write to me. We didn't really have this internet where people could exchange so easily. So people would wait every month to get their issue, and I would write about the latest and the
And
greatest.
it would be a little like fold. It would be like a little pamphlet kind of a thing. But
Well, no.
50 pages or something?
No, Fama magazine was more like
Oh,
80.
Fama magazine.
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking of the little.
Oh, the
something
little
else,
fold
the little
one was
folder
one that we made. That was called Aquarium Frontiers.
Okay.
So, like I said,
Yeah,
the
that's the
first
one I was
product
thinking
of
of.
Two Little Fishies. See, you've been around a while
Yeah,
too.
and they used to. We used to put them in binders.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, Two Little Fishies. We started with a video called An Introduction to the Hobby of Reef Keeping. A few years later, we made that magazine, which was called Aquarium Frontiers. And we started producing products. Then we started publishing books. And my fame just grew more and more, even though I can still walk down the street and nobody has a clue, right? Anyway.
Just
but
like
it's-
John Lennon.
Oh God, don't scare me.
Okay, all right.
Yes, but it has happened on a few occasions where
Yeah.
I've either been in my own neighborhood or even traveling,
Right.
where people have come up to me and say, "Aren't you Julian Sprung?" And that really freaks me out. It's
Yeah.
very strange because really, I mean, aquarium keeping is it's a small world, at least from my
Yeah, but as far as the books go on aquariums and reef keeping, you've probably got the best known or among the best, and they're one of the best qualities too, because just having the book, it's almost like a coffee table book, because the images inside are so beautiful and it's so well made. It's just it's a very interesting book.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We did make an effort to make the books beautiful. The graphic design was done by the other little fishy and two little fishies, Danny Ramirez, who has since retired, and the work that I did, as well as Charles Delbick, who was a co-author on some of these books. That's what you see. If you're feeling that it looks like good quality, it was our group.
Well, I think people into reef keeping are visually oriented, so they see a book that's kind of graphically laid out and displayed. I think that's very appealing because they want to look through it, and it's very easy. I think you have this one on invertebrates and you have one on corals, right?
Correct.
And then you could go and find where to put the coral in the aquarium based on what type of coral it is and what kind of lighting you have and all this stuff. So it's almost like a field guide.
That was the intention. We wanted it to be a field guide, a quick reference, not too much text in that coral book, to make it simple for somebody to make a decision. Do I want to buy that coral? Is it going to work in my tank? Unfortunately, the book is out of print. These days, publishing is it's a difficult.
Well, you could still find it on eBay and on Amazon, and you could even find new copies every now and then that are in the plastic if you're lucky.
Rarely, but yes, they are. They're still circulating.
Well, how come they're out of print? I mean, why? What happened?
Publishing has become a challenging industry. I mean, we actually published and printed those books. To make it worthwhile, you really need to be able to produce a large enough print run, and you should be able to sell it in a year or 2 years, let's say. And the volume of sales dropped dramatically for all, and it's not just aquarium books, all books. There are exceptions. The Bible never is going out of style, but even though two of our books were considered the Bibles in aquarium keeping, even those suffered after more than 10 years, then the sales volume goes down, where you have to look at it and say, do I want to print enough books that I've got to sit on that inventory for 5 years, and it doesn't make sense.
Well, I'm glad you're still around, because I know some of the guys from those early days published some famous aquarium books, and I don't think they're around anymore, and you can't find them as authors.
That's right. That's true.
And you also have, I think it's these little things like on algae. I've even seen these when I lived in Bangkok. They were selling them in the Moship market, and they were very popular there.
Yeah, I went to Thailand a couple of years ago, and I visited that market, and I visited.
You saw the little reef place in there?
Oh yeah, and there's some other shops around in Bangkok, and it was like going to a museum. Very interesting, because I saw some of our own products from a long time ago. They still had them.
They still have them.
And there were some products from other manufacturers that
And they knew who you were, of course, right?
No, they didn't. I mean, I have customers there, and they know who I am.
Right.
But I was able to go to some of these shops anonymously and just look around, and I saw.
Yeah, they have a lot of German stuff there, I think. A lot of Eheim and a lot of other German products, which are good, too. We don't have as much in the U.S. So not only do you have the books, though, but you also have you still have the aquarium, like the food and things of that sort, right? What's your newest product?
That's the major part of our business is manufacturing of accessories, foods, filters, filter media. The newest product that we have and we'll be showing here is a collaboration we've done with Marco Rocks in Florida. We produced a double side cut limestone. It's a natural stone, and they're approximately hand-sized. We call them stacks because you can stack them together, rotate them to achieve any shape you want. You glue them together with a product called sticks.
Right.
Very easy to consider.
Yeah, right.
Well, in this case, sticks is a specially formulated hydraulic cement.
So you can also use that to put, configure rocks and corals and live rock.
Any live rock, but in the case of stacks, it's a dry rock, so you don't get any of the pests like bristleworms or Aiptasia anemones. And it's a porous rock, so it takes the glue really, really well, and you can create any shape you want.
So you use that as the actual coral on
Yeah,
there.
that's
It's
the
not
base.
just a stand,
It's not just a stand.
but it's the bait. It's the coral you put other
can
things
build
on.
your whole aquascape with it, whether
Oh,
in a
okay.
small tank or in a big tank.
All right.
It's if you understand the concept of 3D printing, how
Yeah.
it's in layers. Imagine that with rocks.
So how do you shape it? Do you sand it or file it, or
It is the rocks themselves naturally are porous and very organic, irregular shape.
so you can file
And this
them,
is
yeah.
sliced. Well, it's sliced like bread. So
Oh,
you take
okay.
a rock and it's like cutting a loaf of bread.
Oh, all right.
And then those pieces can be put together in any shape you want. You'll have to see it later. You just come
Yeah,
by
well,
and
the people on the podcast will have to look at. Well, what's your website? Do you have a website for all this stuff?
www.twolittlefishies.com, but Stax is not on there yet.
Okay.
If you do a Google search for STAX and maybe Reefapalooza, where we showed it, Reefapalooza Orlando, you'll see some videos
Right.
demonstrating it. There are a few on.
You also have some solutions, right? Is it the food, the coral?
We have foods for corals, we have foods for fishes, we have trace element supplements, macro element supplements.
I think you have some of the best solutions out there, right? They're always getting some of the best reviews. It's a high quality product, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've been around a long time making these things.
Yeah, I've used I personally recommend the Two Little Fishes. I don't know which ones I've used. It's been a while, but Seacam and Two Little Fishes were the ones I used to stick with.
Very good companies. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And where are you? Where's your central office?
We're in Miami.
Oh, you're in Miami. Oh, how lucky.
Yeah.
Do you have any comment before I finish up here? Do you have any comments on like the destruction of the reefs or the cyanide that they're using now?
well-
I guess they have a new thing where they're going to test. They could test fish in fish tanks that there's been
Yes. Well,
cyanide's been
that's
used.
Been a long time subject.
Yeah.
Destruction of reefs. Well, that we could go on a separate podcast. But if you want to focus on cyanide. That was a practice that began in the Philippines, probably in the 1960s even.
Right.
Cyanide is a poison, but some people discovered that squirting it in the reef, you could stun the fish if they were dosed at a low level. Unfortunately, the dose stunning to dose killing is not very clear. So fish that are stunned now may end up dying weeks later
Right.
from the injury that they suffered.
Into their internal organs.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really not something that the aquarium industry condones.
And there's a way of testing, isn't there, that's coming
Well,
out where they
that's-
can test the fish or the fish tank
It's
because they
now-
urinate or something in the water?
Correct. Yeah, the fish that have been exposed to cyanide will produce an ion that can be measured in the water. So that testing method is being rigorously proven to make sure that it is accurate. And it looks like right now it is something that can be done. It's been a dream for years to be able to utilize that to basically separate the good suppliers from the bad suppliers.
So the solution, though, is to what? Just to breed the fish? Because
No.
it's hard to catch them in the fish tank, let alone in a reef, you know? So,
I support the wild aquarium fishery. By and large, collecting of marine life for aquariums is a sustainable practice, and it adds value to the reef. It gives people in all of these countries a form of income that is beneficial to them and to the environment. They want to protect the reef. Are there destructive practices out there? For sure. There's dynamite fishing and cyanide fishing, as you mentioned. They are also used for food fishing. Food fishing in Philippines and in Indonesia often involves the use of cyanide. That's something not widely publicized. So this test being employed will help not only our aquarium industry, it will help clean up the food fishing industry.
you said you support, what was it, the name of the organization again?
Oh, well, there's a number of organizations, but what I was saying is I support collecting of marine life, wild collecting. I also support aquaculture, mariculture. I don't think one should be promoted in exclusivity to the other. The whole picture is what really works for the hobby. It's important to get that message across because there are too many anti-aquarium groups that make a point of positioning wild harvest as destructive, and it really, really isn't. There are exceptions that we just brought up. And the aquarium industry, is doing its best to fix that, including working on this cyanide detection. Now, there also, there are issues people may talk about, whether endangered species, coral bleaching. There's a number of topics. Now, you talked about an organization, Pet Industry Joint Advisory Council, that's called PJAC. Okay. MASNA, the Marine Aquarium Societies of North America. These are organizations that work on these subjects.
Right.
These political subjects is what they are.
Yeah, because there's got to be a solution. We need to have people breeding the coral and catching the coral, and I think it's good for the industry to have a hobbyist out there. They're learning things all the time.
Yes, we are. The aquarium industry, we learn all about how to maintain and culture these things, and that knowledge benefits the scientific community, it ties back to reef restoration. You have basically aquarium background people cultivating corals in the wild, mariculture, and using that for reef restoration. The Coral Restoration Foundation is a classic example, but there are other examples around the world, not just in Florida, the Caribbean, but even in Indonesia and in the Philippines, using corals maricultured for reef restoration.
Right.
A lot of corals coming out of Indonesia now are maricultured, not wild collected. Right. Sure, the parent colonies are wild collected, but they're now being propagated in the sea in vast farms, very, very large areas.
And this could be even more important once with the disappearance of the reefs, right? Repopulating the reefs and all of that.
That's where reef restoration comes in. It's helpful to have, a local source of the right corals. When on the reef you get a bleaching event, it begs the question, is it safe to have all the corals in one basket in the sea? The fact that the corals die on the reef doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to die on the farm. Some of the farms, are in a habitat that, for whatever reason, the corals thrive there, and they may die on the.
Well, they do that with endangered species. The zoos do that, and they do it with the frogs in the Amazon and things of that sort. So it's important. Okay, getting back real quick before we close up, you said there was a product or two that was new that you came out with, a solution?
Let's see. Yeah, the snacks is there. Watch your step. You get an idea here now.
Oh, okay. So they look like rocks. I was thinking of a wafer kind of a thing. So they look like coral.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they're limestone, and you see how you can rotate, and then.
Oh yeah, but they look. You don't have to do anything. I was thinking of. That looks great.
You can build a whole aquascape that way.
Yeah. So. Okay, that's pretty cool. What do those go for? What are the prices on these types of things?
I don't know
the
pricing off the top of my head on this.
Right. Yeah. And you also have the substrate. The sand.
That's correct.
And
we have a bunch of magnetic devices, some for cleaning the windows, some for helping to feed fishes, like the Veggie Mag. You can clip the food on that.
Okay.
Magnetically coupled.
All right. Well, it looks pretty good, and it looks like you have a ton of products up there. Something for everything. Do you have the different kinds of chemicals as well? Also okay.
So there you can see the bottles there. We have various types of cement. I mentioned sticks. That one is new, but we also have cyanoacrylate, which are super glue types.
You still have what is it called? The snow or whatever.
Marine
you have the
snow. That was
snow?
still a very popular product. It is a food for invertebrates that duplicates the. It's called aggregation or how do you call that?
Well, it was the first of its kind when it first came out, I think, back then. So it was kind of like broke new ground in the industry.
It is. It matches a process that occurs in nature. If you've ever been either in the sea or in a lake and you look through the water at the sunlight, you see all of these organic particles.
They have to how to recreate that in the movies.
To get that natural effect.
Right.
And the invertebrates feed on that.
Right.
It's a food source. So,
Well, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time.
Nice
it was
to meet
fantastic meeting you. Good luck. You're going to be talking today. Good luck. And fantastic job in the books. They're my favorite.
I'm glad to hear that. I can't get enough of that compliment. It's a lot of work. Thank you.
Well, they came out well. Thanks. Well, that's it for Reefapalooza Part 1 Setup Day. For advertising on the Uncommon Core podcast, go to www.advertisecast.com/1306. That's advertisecast.com/1306. I think 13 6-year-olds. And you can find us on Pinterest at www.pinterest.com/uncommoncorepod or Instagram at instagram.com/uncommoncorepodcast, Twitter, UnCommonCore at UCC Podcast, Tumblr, UnCommonCore Podcast. Merchandise such as bags, shirts, dresses, and towels featuring the mug of Q the Pug can be found at hugthepug.com. All these links can also be found at uccpodcast.com. Now for a free sticker of Q the Pug. Hug the Pug stickers for free. Contact me at uncommoncorepodcast@gmail.com. That's uncommoncorepodcast@gmail.com. Put free UCC sticker in the subject line. Hit the subscribe button in iTunes, rate us, review us, and tell a friend. Next time, Reefapalooza Part 2, Showtime.
You've been listening to the Uncommon Core podcast with Thomas Howell. I'm Satoko Smith. Thank you for listening.